There we go. Hello, it's me, your friendly neighborhood webinar guy. And I'm here today. We're going to talk about content editing strategy and tips. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As always, this is like an open-ended conversation. So please feel free to leave your comments live in the chat, and we'll answer them as we kind of go through. I'm very excitedly joined today by our content master, Mauro, who I will toss it over to give a quick introduction.
Thank you, Brendan. My official role at Agility is content manager, but I think I like master a lot more. It's very powerful, very impactful. So yeah, I'm the content manager here at Agility CMS. I'm responsible for all of our external facing content, blogs and web pages and emails and so forth. I've been with Agility for about 6 months, and as a content creator, as a content writer, I have about 20 years experience creating content for such global brands as Research in Motion and Intuit, and I've also worked on the agency side as well. But I am thrilled to be here today with you, Brendan.
Thank you. I'm thrilled that you're joining me. It's always nice to have like new faces, new personalities, kind of like joining us, showing off our team to more people and to our customers. I'll toss it back over to you, but I also want to shout out the fact that we're going to be showing off some new exciting quality of life features during our webinar stream today. So make sure you stick around and we'll show those off at the end. And back to you. I know you have some information about content editing that you'd like to share.
Yeah, so thanks, Brendan. So again, this webinar is about content editing strategy and tips within Agility CMS. And as I mentioned off the top in my introduction, I'm relatively new to Agility CMS. I've only been with the company for 6 months, but the platform truly is made for editors and content creators. As I was applying to join Agility, I signed up for a trial instance of the platform, and I just dove in, didn't bother reading the documentation, didn't know Agility Academy existed at the time. And I am not technical by any stretch of the imagination, but I was able to figure out what I needed to do or what I wanted to do in about 5 minutes. And that is not hyperbole. It's really flexible and intuitive and easy to use. And for a content person like myself, it's very empowering. There's a lot of freedom. In previous places I've worked at, the dev team would only allow website publishing at certain dates and certain times, or they would just lock the CMS, under lock and key, and you would never have access to it. And sometimes when you are a content person and a content creator, you get that flash of genius, you get a great idea, and you want to execute it immediately, and you just can't. And by the time you get the opportunity to execute it, if you're following a sprint schedule or development schedule, the moment has passed and you've lost the opportunity. Or if you need to make an urgent change, you just don't have the ability to do so. And depending on the nature of that urgent change, it could be, quite, serious or detrimental if it isn't made. So I like the fact that Agility makes it real easy for content people to work on content and not feel like they're stepping on anybody's toes, and not feel like they're messing up schedules, or not feel that they're interfering with development operations. It truly gives the power of content creation back to content editors. And as someone like myself who is always thinking about content and what things I want to write and what things I want to say, the fact that I have the ability to just do it and not worry about, downstream ramifications is terrific.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it's nice to have like a fresh perspective from someone who's actually creating content and who comes from a world of creating content. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's our core user, right? Like, right. Yes, we also cater to developers and development teams to make it really easy to set everything up and to connect everything. But to actually have somebody who comes from the world of creating content and utilizing the CMS space for that content, to have that perspective come into Agility and be able to look at it and be like, this is actually like really easy to use and really straightforward, and it makes your life a little bit easier. Like having that perspective from you, the person who actually creates all of our content, I think is really cool and really valuable.
Thanks. It's just a big canvas, really. And, content creation at its core should be, it should be fun. It should be spontaneous, and, it should be purposeful as well. And Agility, the platform, just supports all of those initiatives, we'll say. It's not like you don't have to jump through hoops, and you don't have to, navigate your way through endless pages of code, and you don't have to worry about, if I click this, is that going to break? It's something that is just super intuitive to use. And I do know that a lot of content creators, or I shouldn't say a lot, many content creators, they like to create their content directly in a CMS. I tend to be more old school, and I use, I create content in Word. But even porting it from Word into Agility is super easy. Cut, paste, it works perfectly. No formatting issues, no weird characters appearing, no odd breaks. So for someone like me who likes to, when it's just me and the blank page, and I just love that sort of, that conflict of trying to figure out what I'm going to write, being able to work in that space and then bring it into Agility, and knowing that it's going to, maintain the format and the structure that I intended to maintain, just makes my job a lot easier.
For sure. And, we beta tested for a while there that kind of like improved pasting functionality, for those people, because the people that create content in Word and bring it over to a CMS, I think is significantly more common than you'd think it is. I know you said you're a little bit old school, but I think a lot of people like to work that way, and they have their workflows. We got a lot of like really great feedback on that pasting functionality. And I know that our team is working hard to create a new and improved version of that we can roll out that'll be even better than the beta version of the pasting functionality that we had.
Yeah.
I know you've got a lot of ideas, a lot of things that you want to share, but I'm also going to just do a really quick demo if anybody is new to Agility or coming across this, to kind of show off how easy it is to kind of manage your content and pages. And then we'll kind of talk about some of the best practices and tips and tricks for content. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So I whipped up a new kind of demo instance over here as well, just for the purposes of this specific webinar. When you come into Agility, this is the screen that you're greeted with. You have your basic functionality along the top with your global search. Really powerful global search tool. I use this constantly if I'm ever working on a specific piece of content on the website that I want to be able to find really quickly. This global search is the best way to do it. Yes, you can go into content and you can go through your content lists, or you can go into pages and you can look through and try and find where that content's living. But just taking a snippet of the title or taking a snippet of the piece of text and popping it into the global search is by far the easiest way to find what you're looking for and improve your workflow while you're in here. On the left-hand side, you have your main navigation. So this you can actually collapse if you want a smaller view of it, or expand and pin it if you want a bigger view. You've got your content in here. So this is where your main content list is going to live. So for the purposes of this, we have our blog categories, blog posts, and site header. So you've got two different types of content in here. You have content lists, which are collections of content all using the same fields and model. And then you have individual items, which are things that you only need one of, right? So you don't need a whole list of headers for your site. You probably just need one. If we go into blog posts here, we have a list of the posts that are available on our site. You can go in here to edit an existing one, and all of the fields that you have available to you will be unique to your website and the models that were created for you. So yours will look a little bit different, but you get the general idea of it here. You'll be able to go in, see which fields are required, fill them out, decide your title, URL slug, update your images, add your categories, and copy and paste your content over into the rich text editor if that's your workflow, or create your rich text for your content in here as well. You may also have our block editor as a field that you use, which can be used instead of the rich text editor. And that just allows a little bit more freedom to add different blocks of content and rearrange them, but is just as powerful as the rich text editor. On the right-hand side, we've got some SEO stuff, which we'll cover in a bit. And then on the left, again, we can pop over and we can access our pages as well. So this menu over here on the left is going to basically represent the page tree of your website. You can go in here and reorder your pages, drag and drop them, add new pages to your website as well. And if you want to create a page, you can just quickly click in. You have different blocks of content. So the way that you design pages in Agility is essentially with different content blocks that you can drag and drop from a library of blocks that have been created for you to structure and design your page. If you wanted to add new blocks, you just click on Add Component. You see the library that's available to you. Again, yours will be different depending on what's been built for you, but you can just easily drag and drop, place them wherever you want, add as many of those blocks as you like, go in, edit each one, fill out the fields, just like we saw in the content area on Agility. And then when you're actually ready to see what this looks like, we have Web Studio, which is really cool. We have a whole webinar on Web Studio and a whole video series on Web Studio over on our YouTube channel if you want to see a little bit more in depth there. But just to give you a quick idea, when you hit preview, it'll iframe in your preview website. So you can actually see the content that you're working on and what it's going to look like inside Agility without having to open it in a new tab. And with a few extra steps, you can actually connect your preview directly to Agility so that it can follow you around and update in real time when you're making changes, which is really cool as well. And if you have multiple people in your team, you can see them in here with you while you're working. So you'll be able to see who's online with you, click on them, see what they're working on, and talk in real time, both in the comment section and over here if you want to like start comment threads. Works a lot like Slack. General, really quick overview and demo of how to use Agility and just how easy it is, like Mauro said. I don't know if you have any like tips, tricks while we're kind of like in there that you want to kind of like mention while we're showing the screen, we're showing the demo.
Yeah. Something that I've really found, and you just demonstrated it when you were dragging those elements onto the page, is you can mix and match. And I would encourage everyone who is using Agility to do that. If you lift up that table, if you're putting in a table, put the image somewhere else. If there's no rigidity with Agility CMS, you can put what you want where you want. And I would highly recommend that if you really want to try something different, if you want to build a page that deviates away from like your standard norm or what have you, just to experiment, Agility does allow for that type of experimentation in a safe environment, so you don't have to worry about accidental publishing or impacting other elements of your website. And you've got Web Studio on screen, Brendan, and I would highly recommend like utilizing Web Studio. And there you go, thank you. And I would highly recommend utilizing Web Studio so that you can see what content the changes that you're making in real time. So you don't have to leave the site or leave the platform, go to a staging site, go to a preview site. Oh, if that's not what I wanted it to be, come back, make the change and do it again, back and forth, back and forth. You're seeing what you're changing. You're seeing your content come to life in real time. So, for a content person like me, it gives that sense of like, satisfaction. I know when I push this live, this is what I'm going to get.
Yeah, 100%. When you're in here as well, a lot of times you might want to have a little bit more room. When you're working, you might want to see a little bit more. When you're in Web Studio, you have all these different panels, and it can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming. So you can, as I mentioned at the beginning, collapse this one on the side here. But you can also collapse pretty much everything else if you want to as well. You can always resize, give yourself some more room. And if you're inside the rich text editor, you also always have the option to go into a full screen mode as well, so you can focus more on your text, which I think is nice and powerful too.
Yeah, it makes it really easy to follow along what you're editing, where you're editing. So there's just no like the ambiguity and the confusion of what did I just change and where did I just change it? gone.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. I'm going to pop back in to one of the content items here. Because also show that this is pinned all the time when you're inside of Web Studio, but you can also hide this one as well and have it as a pop-out as needed in case you want that extra space here as well.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're here and we're on this tab, did you want to kind of like run through a little bit and talk a little bit about SEO?
Yeah. So, I've been doing, content for about 20 years, and the core tenets of SEO sort of still remain, right? Keywords, metadata, meta description, they just are always there. And this tool makes it real easy to make certain that your site is truly optimized for search engines. And since we're in 2025, perhaps AI search as well. The fields are right there. So you just enter in the meta description, enter in your keywords. If you want to, change your, meta title, you can do that as well. So, there's no reason really to, not have your site fully optimized, because the tools are right there, and there's no, you don't have to dig for them. You don't have to find them. You don't have to hunt for them. And you don't have to try to incorporate it into, some code or what have you. It's just there, super easy, super intuitive. So, for, content creators who specialize in, SEO content, this is the easiest, most effective way to make sure that your entire site is optimized. And it goes beyond, what you're seeing on screen with those fields, adding alt text to images, real easy to do. If you want to hyperlink between pages within your site and give that link juice that, you might hear about, real easy to do as well. So it's not just about creating content easily, it's about creating content that the search engines and ultimately your users are going to find easily. And Agility just lays it out for you. Again, as I mentioned, you don't have to hunt for it. You don't have to code. You don't need a developer. You just put in the information, click the button, and boom, you're done.
Yeah, and it's just as easy to find here in content. Like I said, you have this right panel. You have your SEO.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as easy to find when you're in the pages section. So if we go back here, go to the home page, same place, SEO right on the side. You have a little bit of extra options here. So you have the title of your page path or your page URL, the menu text, how you want it to appear in the menu. Then you can actually decide whether or not you want it to be visible in the menu or visible in the sitemap that gets shared with crawlers. And then below that, you have your, as Mauro mentioned, your meta description, your keywords, additional header marks if you want, as well as room for scripts if there's any scripts that you want to include in the header body of the content as well. Excellent. And then we wanted to talk also about some additional best practices.
So first rule of content creation is R&D, which stands for repurpose and duplicate. So, if you have content or pages that you are constantly referring to, you're constantly going to for inspiration, you can do that, right? I would highly encourage you to do that. But Agility makes it easy for you to refer to those, those pages and pieces that you're always going back to because you just like the way it's structured, you like the way it looks. And I'm going to turn it back over to Brendan so he can show you exactly a feature that will help make that even easier.
Exactly. In our newest release, we've actually added what I think is a big quality of life improvement. I think for a long time, you'll have seen the coming soon label on our favorite section. We do actually have favorites in Agility now. And this is something that I was really excited about because I always have a specific section or pages that I work on regularly or like to keep updated. And rather than having to use the global search, as good as it is that I mentioned at the beginning, or having to go through and go through the content section, find the list if you have a lot of stuff here, you can now just go in and at the top you can favorite an item. You can go in here and you can favorite a page. And you can also favorite the Web Studio version of that page. So if you prefer working inside of Web Studio, and this is kind of your default place to go, you can favorite it from here as well. when you look at your favorites, you'll have those laid out. You can drag and drop. You can rearrange them. You can have as many items here as you want. Easily access them on the left-hand side, whether in full or collapse mode. And I don't know. I'm really excited about it. This has made my life a lot easier, if I'm being honest. And I think there's a lot of people who, maybe didn't know that they wanted it, but take advantage of it. It's better than having it, in with your favorites at the top here and kind of getting lost in your bookmarks. Just be able to have your core things favorited inside Agility, game changer.
Yeah, especially if you have, as you mentioned, pages that you need to update frequently, or if you have a exceptionally large site that have pages that you need to update frequently. Like favorites just puts everything where it needs to be so you can access it quickly. So that means it saves time, it increases efficiency, it drops frustration instead of having to go, doing the global search and trying to find through all the results. It's just always there when you need it. So, if you have a workflow or a cadence that requires frequent updates to a specific page, maybe it's an events page or maybe it's something else, it's just there and where you can find it, access it, make the change, complete the change, and move on with your day.
Yeah. And you can favorite pretty much everything. So if you're a content editor or strategist, you can favorite your favorite content or content items or pages, like we had mentioned. Mm-hmm. But if you're a content architect or you're a developer and there's specific models that you're working on, you can favorite models in Agility as well. So it's really whatever it is within Agility that you need to access on a regular basis, super easy to do that now.
Yeah, for sure. And I would, encourage, every attendee at this, on this webinar, if you're a customer, utilize the favorite section. It will change just the way you operate within the platform. And for those who aren't customers, I do highly recommend just, sign up for a trial instance, give it a shot, just see how easy and intuitive the platform is, especially if you are creating lots of content regularly. It's just so intuitive and smooth and just real easy to use, and it just makes this overcomes all the traditional hurdles and roadblocks and obstacles that are associated with content creation.
For sure. Did you want to talk a little bit too about kind of like analytics and how you can use those kind of like inform your content?
Yeah. So, utilize Google Analytics, right? Make sure that your website is connected with Google Analytics and find out what pages are performing well, what pages aren't performing well, what pages are getting the clicks and the conversions and which aren't, and make changes accordingly. The whole point of content is to get people to your site, get people engaged, get people reacting, get people converting, right? And if you don't have those analytics, then you just don't know and you're flying blind. And as I mentioned before, as I mentioned before about sort of like being old school, whereas if you're operating in Word and sort of the traditional SEO tactics, same with Google Analytics. If you want to know how your site is performing, hook up with an analytics tool. Doesn't necessarily have to be Google Analytics, and just refer to it regularly, especially if you have pages that you perceive or have identified as critical or important pages. You want to make sure they're high performing, and if they're not, then you want to investigate why that's the case and then make changes accordingly.
I think that's great advice, and I think we also have some time for a dad joke.
A dad joke. Well, thankfully, I am a dad. I have 2 beautiful daughters. So what do you call a snake that is 3.14 meters in length?
I don't know. What do you call a snake that is pi meters in length?
That is right. You call it a python.
I guess you could also use it for a snake that's really into coding.
This is true.
There's another joke in there somewhere. I don't know what it is.
I mean, Joel our CTO, he is the guru of dad jokes. He just pulls them out of thin air. So you give him, he is the chat GPT of dad jokes. Give him a prompt and he'll come up with something on the spot.
True. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us on our webinar today. Hopefully you found it helpful. Hopefully some of these tips and tricks are things that you can use. There you go, Python. Hopefully some of these are tips and tricks that you can use in your day-to-day working inside of Agility. And if you have any tips and tricks, feel free to drop some in the comments. And we will... My screen just got all weird.
Oh dear.
Sometimes, but hi, I'm still here.
Yeah. Last thing I would suggest is, follow us on LinkedIn. Follow Agility CMS on LinkedIn if you haven't already. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, by all means, please feel free to do so. And lastly, sort of some sage advice is the platform is meant for exploration. So go in there, try things, move things, experiment, because you don't have to worry about breaking anything. So it's truly a safe space where, if you are a content person and you just have this wild idea, Agility will let you investigate it and you don't have to worry about how it's going to impact anything else.
Yeah, just be wary about deleting things that shouldn't be deleted, and be careful. But otherwise, play around and have a nice time.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But we have lots of warnings in place, so it's hard to do that accidentally.
This is true. There are lots of warnings in place. That is true. So thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Thank you, everybody who is for joining us as well, and we will catch you in the next webinar. Goodbye.
Cheers. See ya.